Welcome. Welcome to this week's BTO talk on generative AI. My name is Michael Alf, calling from Lisbon, and I'm here with my two partners. Markus, over to you.
Hello, Michael. Yes, Markus Keiper from Singapore, professor at the National University of Singapore, and also founder of Beyond the Obvious. And we help you to get into the Gen AI game. Rob.
Yes, Markus, thank you. Rob Thurner, based in London, also a partner, and working with Cambridge Judge Business School on their digital disruption program. Now, we normally start these sessions by looking at the big tech news. Of course, this is moving super fast. So, Michael, do you want to point to the highlights for you? What have you seen this week, and why does that matter to our followers?
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, big news again. I mean, we are just kind of 1 week chases the next week in big announcements. And this week, back to OpenAI, we covered Amazon. OpenAI made the O1 model generally available. And O1, if you recall, is the reasoning model, which means it's not only input creates output, it's actually thinking about the output. Yeah. And from first tests, it basically shows PhD level in a lot of the questions. The question, of course, then comes up, who needs a PhD kind of source and who can actually leverage that in the work? That might be a different conversation topic at some stage. So that's one of the big news. The other one, Sora, the video creation platform, is also interestingly not for Europeans. Yeah, so if you are in Europe, you have to take a VPN, and even then, not everyone gets it. Yeah, so it's very selective and it's very, very, very restricted. Yeah, so it's like you can't do a lot of things, especially around humans, for obvious reasons around fake. And the third news, also OpenAI came up with a subscription of $200 per month versus the $20 for the professional. Is it worth it? Look, if you are a really top professional and you have a business where you can directly leverage the bigger volumes, the more opportunities to create additional revenue, yes, of course. Yeah. Otherwise, go for the $20 professional. That's the news.
Quick question on this one, Michael. We see that OpenAI, in this case ChatGPT, goes from freebies to $20 to $200. Do you see the next versions $2,000 and $20,000 for the multinationals?
I think it's a great question. One of the things you definitely see at the moment, and that's a longer conversation around market circumstances, is that a lot of software providers are significantly increasing their prices. Why? Because there's no volume growth anymore. Yeah, so therefore, the investors expect more revenue and more profits. So therefore, they increase the prices. Challenge for most businesses, they're dependent on those software solutions, being in an email software, being in a kind of an automation software like Keep, Infusionsoft, yeah, or here as well. Yeah, so you are dependent on what you do. You've integrated it into your processes. To say no, it's really hard. And if you are a professional user, you might pay a couple of $100 or $1,000 more. So it's we'll see more price increases for a while. We see, of course, the other tension, that you have this compete of the major models, which obviously lowers the cost on the front end. But we see kind of these prices. And the last comment, I mean, there are significant costs behind energy cost, of course, server cost. Yeah, so it's not they can do it only so long. So we will see some increase of the cost. At the same time, the small models or the own models, I mean, I run one on my machine at home without an internet, and that does a brilliant job. Yeah, so that's for free. We will see that as well. So that's kind of a very, very low cost at very, very high quality as well.
Excellent.
Rob.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Talking of cost, one of the things GenAI can do, of course, is build efficiency, provide expertise without you needing to find additional headcounts or upskill in areas where maybe that's not your main thing. And it takes us to one of the key areas where GenAI can help, and one of the areas that we build into our Maverick simulation, and that's data. data analytics, data storytelling. This has been a super popular workshop. I've run this many times this year. And what I found really interesting is how many of the people in these workshops actually have a clearly defined use case where only with a bit of capability themselves, they could unlock the value of the data that at the moment they're not realizing because it's sitting there in spreadsheets. They haven't found a way of visualizing that data and distilling it down into easy to communicate points, whether it's going to the board or it's going to other people in other departments. And doing my research, I came across an author, Cole Nussbaumer Nauflick is her name. Forget about that. She's a Googler. She worked at Google and she got promoted again and again and again because she happened to be very good at data visualization. She learned her craft initially in one of the banks, then worked into Google and developed a lot of their skills. So an area for you guys is using GenAI and GenAI tools to very effectively and very quickly synthesize large data sets and communicate the key insights with other stakeholders, which enables you to make better decisions more quickly and more confidently. So this is a really important one. You don't have to be a data scientist to do it or to find additional people. So Michael, what kind of tools, GenAI tools, might be useful that could be used to assist an exec in becoming valuable with data and sharing that with the rest?
Yeah, it's a great use case. Thanks, Rob. And it's interesting, that you have these workshops and they're shifting towards kind of how to utilize GenAI. I think the first step is always, as we say, try to get really good at your base tool, be it ChatGPT or Claude. For most, it's still ChatGPT. That's a good starting line, so where you can do a lot of things, and the tools are getting better. They're getting multimodal, which means you can actually create now graphics. You can create Excel tables, for your data, and then visualize that, copy that, and then use that in Excel, for example, to create the charts quickly. So you become, super efficient. So that's the base level where I would start. And then you can look at some of the tools. One is Napkin. Look at that one. I think they're still in beta. We really love using it. It's quite simple to create quite stunning visual representations of what you're doing in a relatively short period of time. So that's one, if you want to go one step further, I would look at. Markus, any builds on that or any thoughts kind of from that?
I guess I would like to share an example of the project management where sometimes it can happen to you that you have been working on a project for a couple of months. Your presentation is happening in Q1 2025, and your sponsor just told you today, no, the project is off. I don't like the topic anymore, but you still have to present something which contributes to the growth of the company at the end of February or March next year. And you tell him, look, but I crunched a lot of data into this project. I'm talking about port operations or airport operations or, areas or transportation areas where you can collect a lot of data. And I analyzed this with a team of 20 people, and I simply run out of time to do that. And now it's the Christmas season. And the person asked me, so what is your advice? And said, have you thought about GenAI? Did you think about crunching the data in GenAI using agents? And that is an area, Michael, you know most about, where you actually build something, a workflow in GenAI, which will work tirelessly overnight. And when you wake up, you have. So maybe on that quickly one, without explaining exactly how the agent works in detail, but how does this agents, and everyone talks about it, no one knows really what it is. How does that work?
Yeah, it's interesting. Basically, I simplify that for here because we want to keep it short. It's Taylorism, at its best. You break down a process into very simple, small tasks. And then you have different agents who work together on each of the tasks. There is an interesting additional component which is basically that the idea is that one of the lead agent, if you like, is able to consider options. So it has almost some free will, some free decision power. This, I think, is still at the very beginning, A. Yeah. B, there's a lot of risk involved there as well. Yeah. So I think the path to go, which is really value adding at the moment, is to break down your tasks into simple steps and then kind of combine different agents together. And I think that's kind of almost enough for most. And then you can experiment with the other components, because there's a lot more to it. Saying, okay, I have this agent and that agent does something, it books for me. I had one case yesterday, someone told me, so the agent actually sold the car for peanuts. Literally. And it wasn't a valid contract. So you had to go give away your $30,000 car for a handful of peanuts.
Okay.
Because the agent somehow misunderstood something. Yeah.
So this takes us back, Michael, to the question we've been wrestling with all along, which is how much should we be devolving responsibility to GenAI and to agents, and how much do we need the human interface? And the argument we've been developing is human, GenAI, human, to make sense that we're asking the right prompts and checking the right results, rather than devolving too much responsibility. Markus, working with the clients that you are, how does that resonate? Are you finding that some are kind of mindful just to jump ahead too quickly without really understanding the basics and how the human intervention needs to be arguably more present than ever, given the risk of getting this wrong?
Yeah, Rob, I think you're putting the finger in the wound here. In most organizations, if you are the evangelist and follow our talk and walk into it tomorrow morning and tell your bosses, let's hire 5,000 agents, Michael said they work for free unless they make a mistake. You can even have a supervisor and a quality manager in there, and they work tirelessly and never take holidays. You probably get a lot of staring and what have you been doing last night? So I think the old rule applies. Start with something small which people can understand and figure out how it works, and you don't scare these people. You can also work maybe alone at night and present the next morning when people thought you would need a week to do that, and all of a sudden you have done that. But be very careful that you don't scare people away, and that they truly understand that you are in charge and in control of the process. All of that you can learn in our simulation, because we take you through 13 scenarios there where you learn step by step how to do that. And with us as facilitators, we have exactly these conversations. Like Rob just asked, how do you do it? So Rob, but you run a lot of workshops. What is the standard feedback you get when people walk out of your great workshops? They're enthused, they know what to do, and do they report back a month later and said the whole organization is on a GenAI journey now, or what do you hear?
No, I mean, I like to keep in contact after we run workshops, go back in after 30 days, see how well they've adapted the ideas. And often at the beginning, it's just coming up with a very simple proof of concept, what we call a roof shot project, which is, have a big moonshot idea, but you've got to start. So have something very modest where you can get the budget, you can get sign off and buy-in from the management, but with very clear KPIs. And on the back of that proves the concept. If that works, well, great. Then you can get more confidence, build more trust, more budget. It's like the domino effect. A small one knocks over a bigger one, and so on and so forth. But if you don't manage to get that roof shot done, it doesn't deliver against the KPIs. And importantly, you're not managing expectations properly. It's game over. So slowly but surely, start small with a proof of concept and build from there. I think that's my traditional way of working, and I think exactly the same model applies here with GenAI, where maybe there's more skepticism there are unrealistic expectations. We can cut the workforce by X%. We can reduce costs by Y. We need to be very careful not to overpromise, but definitely deliver. I'll stop talking because I know we're running out of time here. So, Michael, any last reflections on that before we close?
I really enjoyed listening to your to the discussion and the conversation. So I think all great cases. Here you see on the website beyondtheobvious.co/Maverick for the Maverick simulation, and reach out to us. We are running a webinar on Maverick tomorrow. Reach out to us via DM, email, whatever, and you can then join the webinar as well. And we see you probably next week, the last time this year. Have a great week and see you then.
Bye for now.
Thanks for your time.